Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. It's not often that a song you might hear on the radio makes it into our hymnal, but this one did. Now, I will admit that if you were going to hear it on the radio, you would likely be listening to one of those oldies stations. The hymn I'm talking about is Morning Has Broken, and it was a popular song, say about 40 or 50 years ago, and those of us with gray hair, or in my case, no hair, remember it well. I had never given thought about it this way before, but what an incredible song to celebrate a new year. Even the title, Morning Has Broken, speaks of a new day, a new beginning stretching out before us. The first verse speaks of new opportunities springing forth from God. The second verse begins to describe rain and how rain not only brings life to plants and all creation, but also how the air is so fresh and new after the rain. Then it talks about new life springing forth in the presence of God. Verse 3 is a doxology of praise to God that ends with the overt line about each day as a new creation of God. And with each day our world is made new, and God's love is renewed and refreshed for us. It seems to me that this is a better song for New Year's than Auld Lang Syne. Here during the first week of 2026, we have not just a new day, but a whole new year stretching out before us. So it seemed good to me to focus our week on the major Bible theme of God making things new. So often in life, we need new starts and new beginnings. We are trapped in cycles of deadness, and we need God to enter our lives with light and life. That's just what God does, and we see it over and over. This week I'm looking at stories you might not think of or may not have ever heard of that tell of God giving new beginnings. Today we want to look at Zerubbabel and God's aim of rebuilding what was lost. As usual, let me give you some background. You've heard of this before, and it was a major event in the Bible, and especially in Israel's understanding of itself and its relationship with God. Babylon came and conquered Jerusalem. They had thought that God would never let God's city be conquered, but they had largely forsaken the covenant, and God sent punishment through the Babylonians. All the upper crust of society, the priests, the rulers, the wealthy, those who shaped culture, all of them were carried off into exile. But to make matters worse, the city was reduced to rubble. And even worse than that, the temple, the lavish one built by Solomon, the very home of God, that temple was destroyed too. It was the ultimate devastation, and it shook them to their core. After 70 years in exile, they were able to return to the Promised Land and began to rebuild. Unfortunately, that's when we show up in the Bible again. What I mean by that is that what they did is likely what we would have done. According to the prophet Haggai, they set about rebuilding their homes and the marketplaces and all the normal things, but no one made any effort to build a temple for God's home. Haggai makes a simple observation. You say it isn't time yet to build God's house. Meanwhile, you yourselves live in your paneled houses while this house lies in ruins. Well, they actually listened. And the governor at that time, a man named Zerubbabel, sent loggers into the mountains for wood and found craftsmen to build a temple to serve as a home for God in their midst. Now, to be frank, this temple is almost forgotten. Where the temple that Solomon built was lavish, Israel didn't have wealth like that to use on a temple when they came back from the exile. So while it had the normal structure in the temple, there just weren't all the lavish accoutrements that you might expect. Later on, King Herod would build a new temple that may have been even greater and grander than the one Solomon built. This temple, built by Zerubbabel, however, was more plain and simple. Still, we can't miss the point that it was the best they had at the time. Like the widow putting her 2 coins in the offering box, when they built this temple, they gave all they had. I think this was a remarkable moment of new beginnings for them. They had come back to their homeland after 70 years in exile and reclaimed it as their own again. They had rebuilt their city and established themselves again. The only thing that was missing was the central thing, a place for God. So they built the temple, and from that moment on, they knew they were back. From that moment on, they knew God had brought them back fully. From that moment on, they knew God was in their midst. Morning has broken indeed. When God has a home in our lives, we have a new beginning too. The year stretching out before us is full and complete. God is in our midst. God has given us a fresh start. Welcome to God's new day. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.